Real Fridays, Brian, actually, this is actually for you. Real Fridays is every Friday, we have a podcast where we do inside information effectively on the industry. And I bring in industry insiders, tech vendors, mortgage producers, leaders. We talk about the business. And we talk about things that often investors find really interesting. Private equity finds really interesting. Real estate agents find interesting. Other mortgage professionals find really interesting, because we're feet on the street, either running companies or running parts of companies and doing deals in local markets. And so that's why it's called Real Fridays, because we kind of cut through the BS and we get real on every Friday at 12:30. So obviously, Brian Prahl, good friend of mine, and you've been in the business for, let's see if I can get this right. You've been in this business, is it 16 years? Were you pre-crash or post-crash?
Post-crash on this side of the business. I did some mortgage adjacent work after I got out of college, where I did subprime refis and debt consolidation stuff, but I didn't start working with realtors, what I call real mortgages, until 2010. Yeah.
Got it. So the reason for the crash is Brian Prahl, subprime. Got it. Okay. So then, cause what's funny is pre-crash, probably in 2003, I got in this line of credit business using debt repair, credit repair. And I worked for a call center in 2001 or I think it was 2001, 2002. And that was some crazy, those are some crazy times.
Company back in whatever it was. It was awful, an awful decision. It was very difficult. It is what it is. I'm glad that I'm not doing that at this point.
Yeah. Now, and give me an idea of, just so for the audience's benefit. So you have, what was your production in the last 12 months? And if I ask you any questions that you're not comfortable answering, just feel free to just say so. But public data is production data. So like, what was your group's past production the last 12 months?
So in the calendar year 2025, we did 800 plus, a little bit over 800 units for 250 million or so. And I ended up doing 100, almost right at 200 closings and 64, 65 million, something like that.
So you did 200 closings of your 800 of your group. Mm-hmm. That's incredible, because that's not the Brian Prahl I knew sort of growing up sort of in the business. So we'll have to dig in. We'll have to dig into that transition, because that was a pretty fascinating transition. When you did it, and what do you expect to do this year? And of course, it's such a roll of the dice. But what would you say you aim to do this year?
I mean, we set goals at growing 25, 30%. And I'd love to do 1,000 units at our branch level. I'd love to do 240 personally, if I can get there. We've got some progress. I'd love to add a loan officer or two. I mean, I don't think 1,200 units is out of the realm of possibility, but who knows? We need a little bit of market help, a little tailwind every once in a while to help us get there.
Mama needs a new bag. So, so you're looking at about 310 million, 315 million is what you're sort of hoping for, aiming for. If you do,
315 is the stated objective at this point. Hopefully we get there.
Got it. So, what's interesting is that when I actually have I think this very well could be the very first photo that we ever took together. And I think this was in 2014, 2015. I have no idea who we were working for at the time.
You haven't aged a day, Rick. You look great.
We both look a lot younger, and I don't know.
Oh, goodness gracious. That's funny.
What's that?
On that, huh?
I think it was 2014, but I don't know. Did you ever work for RFC back in 2014? So I think this was RFC when Daniel saw and yourself, when RFC was an interesting incubator to a lot of producers in the business. It's kind of interesting, the people that are out there with Daniel Marciano or Marcial, Daniel Saw, Sammy Takadine, obviously over at New American Funding, and then the great Brian Prahl. Now when you spun off of RFC, you were, I think after that you went to, was it what company was it? right after RFC.
I was trying to recount this the other day. We bounced around a lot, but I think it was Lynn.
Lynn Smart.
Yep.
Lynn Smart. Because I remember it, because I want to say, and I still have some of these old performas, but I want to say you were doing, I don't know, maybe 24, 30 million a year. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
At that time?
That might be like the Rick Roque exaggeration, of it. Honestly, I mean, there was a lot of months we didn't close $1 million. So if we were doing 30 million, that would have been a good year for us in 2014.
So going from, like, walk us through that trajectory, right? Because to go from 15, 20, 25 million a year to 300 million a year, or 250 million a year, or 315 million a year, hopefully this year, like, that's a massive jump. And most people don't make that jump. Most people aren't able to actually, climb in that way. What would you say to be the, sort of the pivot points that enabled you to go from step to step to step? Like, walk me through that.
Well, the first pivot was just finding a business partner that could help me. So I partnered with Trip, who you know very well. And it's like I don't know. I was trying to do everything on my own. I had some pride and some ego and thinking I could figure it out. I was unwilling to be coached. I was unwilling to partner with people. Like, even like when we met, I was a little bit more stubborn than I am at this point in time. And so when I partnered up with Tripp, who's my business partner here, his personality and mine meld well, because I'm more of a outgoing, salesy kind of guy, and I enjoy the social aspect of our business. He is not. He's an introvert. He's a numbers guy. He likes doing all the back end loan setup stuff that I don't enjoy. And so for a while, when we would hire new people, I would train on the sales and he would train on the back end or the loan stuff. And we had no success for 6 or 7 years hiring anybody with experience as a loan officer. So all of our production came from somebody off the street that we were friends with, or somebody that came from a bank as a teller type of role. And we would hire them and train them to be loan officers. And I don't necessarily recommend doing that, but I'm a terrible recruiter. And so that's what we did. After you do that 100 times, you'll hit on a couple of people that are good and that mess with your culture. And if they understand what they're doing, and you get a low rate environment where business is a lot easier than it has been the last couple of years, you start to grow pretty quickly. So we went from, like you said, 25, 30 million a year to 60 to 80 to 100 pretty rapidly. And then, as you know, we joined Lens US or RPM at that point, and I went into a non-producing role. So that was in January of 2017. I forget what our volume was the year prior to joining that, but I want to say it was around 125, 130 million. And I went into a non-producing role where I would focus on recruiting and focus on business development. And we ramped up quickly. During COVID, obviously, that ramped up even more quickly. I think a lot of us were humbled after COVID, but at the time, I thought I was really good at my job. And we did 2,500 loans and $500 billion in production. And I thought I was great. I mean, I'm really good at this, and then the wheels fell off, of course. And then after that, we declined pretty rapidly. We went from 110 employees and 40 loan officers to 30 employees and 15 loan officers in the span of like 6 months. So that was a very humbling experience for sure.
So let's go back in time just a little bit further. So I just pulled up a offer letter for Brian Prahl in 2013, December 10th of 2013 at Lens Smart Mortgage as branch manager. This is your branch manager agreement. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is it. Actually, this was your offer letter. But what's interesting about this is I pulled up a performa we did together in 2015. And we were only modeling to 2.5 million a month. This was Brian Prahl, and your staffing was just Brian, a processor, Tripp as your senior loan officer, and I don't know who your two processors were at 2.5 million a month, but you were already overstaffed. Okay. But this is pretty fascinating now, right? Because you were, 60.
Did I agree to come on your podcast to get embarrassed like this? This is pretty
no, dude. No, this is look, this is 2014, 2015. This is not embarrassment, dude. This is sincerely your growth and your trajectory. To me, these are the seeds of success. Because here you were, working with your referral partners. Here's a sample production history between you. It was basically just you, Mike Bledsoe, Tripp, Daniel Green, and that was it. Those are the three people. That it's a pretty fascinating walk back in time, right? Where you did 2 million, February 1.3, March 2.7, 3.4. It has been a long time since Brian Prahl has been this kind of branch, and it's a pretty fascinating step backwards. This was actually when we were transitioning from LendSmart over to Michigan Mutual. Yeah. Just a fascinating. It is in some ways you should whenever you open up a branch or maybe you do a staff meeting, you should do a look back with your staff and say, guys, this is where we've come from, right? And to be honest, today at 25 million a month, this is us today. We're going to be doing 50 million a month or 60 million a month. We're going to look back at a pro forma doing 300 million in a year. And we're going to say, I can't believe we were only doing 300 million. Just as you're looking at this saying, I can't believe I was only doing 2 million a month in volume.
You'll have to send me those spreadsheets. That I would love to do that, actually.
I think it's a brilliant thing, but I get your offer letter here with LendSmart, and I got your offer letter. I got all kinds of stuff in Brian Prahl. But
I'm scared.
So I always say that, like, for mortgage companies, the first 25 to 30 million a month pretty much is a break even to cover secondary, your back office, underwriters, closers, and that sort of thing. And so whenever I'm consulting to work with a company to help them grow, I'm always saying, like, look, the first 25, 30 covers your nut. You're going to make a fair amount of money between 30 and about 80 million a month, because pretty much the same staff that got you to 30, 40 million a month, you could stretch to about 75, 80 million before you really get too stretched and you need to invest and you take a cost hit, right? And then and then once you invest in those additional resources, an additional underwriter or two and some closers and whatever, then you're good to about 100 and maybe 40, 130, 140 million a month. And so there's this sort of step function, right? Walk us back in time. So we just looked at how you're set up, 3 loan officers doing 2.5 million a month. Your average unit size was about $158,000 at the time, back in 2015. So that's an interesting look back in time too, right? You were 65% govy. Walk us through what your evolution was, because you were Brian Prahl, all the production's on your back. And at some point in time, you had to grow, take a little bit of a step back to manage and oversee. So to walk us through that, like, what was the next milestone from 2 million a month to what was the next milestone after that? And then walk us through that milestone to the next milestone after that. Walk us through that journey.
It would have been from 2 million or 2.5 million to about 5 million. And you can do, like you said, I was overstaffed at the beginning there, which I don't even remember if I had 2 processors or not, to be honest. I think we might have just been modeling that. But one processor in our world can handle 20 to 30 closings a month if the files are set up properly. Getting to that point is hard, because what I've noticed or what I learned is anytime I felt like we were at capacity or coming up to capacity, I would not have thought far enough in advance to build a bullpen of people I wanted to hire. And I would be under the gun to make a hiring decision to get a body in place so that people didn't walk out or quit because they were feeling so stressed and overwhelmed. And I made a lot of bad hires, which created the wheel of just negativity all the time. It was bad hire, 6 months to training, get them into the system, turn them over, start over again. So we always had a body in there, but I would turn over more operational staff members than I would want, which is A, expensive, and B, time costly, because you're spending all this time investing in people to get to that level. Once we got a good base of people, it became easier for me to build a culture around that. Like, does that make sense? Once I got 3 or 4 people involved that were bought into what my vision was, hiring to 10 became a lot easier. but those first 3 or 4 was really difficult for me. And I bet I could have made it easier had I gotten advice, had I been coached, had I done all those things. I think I could have ramped my timeline to be quicker than it was. But I spent, a decade, 7 or 8 years trying to figure it out. When I got to that 60 million-ish mark, it became a little bit easier.
What year would you say that was when you got to about 60? Was because by this time we're at American Eagle.
No, we didn't go to American Eagle until 2017. I did more volume than that in 2016 because we were doing 150 million at the time we joined American Eagle.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it was 2010 to 2014 of struggling with that hamster wheel. And then 2015, 2016, we started to figure it out. 2017, we joined American Eagle, and I stepped back from production completely and went into a non-producing role. My thought process at the time was every company I've left, I left 6 figures or more in a P&L on the way out the door, and that sucks. I go non-producing, I can theoretically drain that account before I leave again, which is a terrible way to think going into a relationship with a company, right? I mean, I don't want to go in planning to leave, but on the flip side, I also want to protect myself, right? So there's, I guess, arguments on both sides.
No. I mean, look, the industry, and I've written about this a fair amount, and I've spoken about it a fair amount. The industry is riddled. As leaders, as executives, we look at loan officers and we judge how much they've jumped around. But the reality is, as companies, most companies aren't very good to their employees. And so we don't, these are people that are commission only, that effectively don't, there's very little investment in them. If they produce, great. If they don't, they get let go. Most companies simply don't invest in the growth of their employees. So it's no wonder that there's a lack of reciprocity. There's a lack of commitment. It's very one-sided. Generally, companies want all this loyalty from LOs, and there's so little investment that warrants the kind of loyalty that companies want from them, which is why I think, I remember always talking to you about, circling the wagons and say, look, these people don't work for your employer. They work for Brian Prahl in the culture that you're creating, because you're the one, it's your job to protect them. It's your job to make sure that they're well taken care of. And if they're not well taken care of, then you find a new home because of just the dynamics in the business.
A big help to me in that regard, in the way that we structured some of the contracts when we went to some of these companies and I learned that from you, because you're right. I mean, loan officer A down the hall from me doesn't work for my company. He's here because of you're at 100% right. And so, to your point, I forget exactly where I was going with that, but I don't think going into a relationship, like joining a company, I should already be planning my exit from the company. It makes the relationship testy from the start, right? And so, but that is the reason I went into a non-producing role, because I wanted to be able to pull money out of my P&L and be compliant with Dodd-Frank comp rules, right? And so that's the way we did that. The benefit was I was able to do exactly what you were talking about and to spend all of my time investing in my loan officer's growth. So I would do a lot of loan officer activity. I would call realtors, I would set appointments, I would go with them, I would do all this stuff. But that was all my job. And so any referral I got went to a loan officer. So a lot of the production that we did was still mine. It just didn't fund in my name. And that was great. But we grew really rapidly. Like, we hired branches in different markets. We had 110 employees at one point during that time period. And that's also great. I think some people are built to be that big. I don't know that I'm one of them. I say this often. I am not very proactively thoughtful. Like, it's one of my personality flaws. Nobody would describe me as being thoughtful. But to your point about loyalty, like, loyalty from my employees is earned by me every single day. Like, I have to bring into them, even as a branch level or a branch manager level, let alone a CEO level or an executive level. Like, we have to be that way at my level as well. And it's easier for me to do that if somebody's in my office than it is if somebody's across the country. That makes sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so I've focused from wider growth to deeper growth with my employees. And outside of the letdown after COVID, we've had a pretty good run of some people that have been with us for 8-10 years now at this point. So it's worked out well in that regard. Does that answer your question? I forget exactly where I was going.
No, no, it does. I would say that the so you went from 2 million a month down up to about 5 million a month within a couple year period, which is impressive by itself. Most branch managers really stop there, quite frankly. And then as you go through the population of branches across the nation, there's only a very small subset that go from 5 million to 7 or 8 million. And then you kind of quickly popped. You went from 7 or 8 to 9, 10 million to quickly like 14 to 15 million. There was kind of a quick ramp there, a quick jump. And that was through just a combination of what would you say, just some local recruiting and expanding across South Carolina?
It was, I got lucky in a lot of regards because, we did recruit outside of our area. So we had some branches that came in. But in addition to that, all of those newbie loan officers that I hired in 2017 and 2018, like became seasoned loan officers when rates started really dropping and business picked up. Because you would remember 2019 was a really good year.
Oh yeah.
Even pre-COVID, right? So like everybody kind of took advantage of that, got a lot of reps, got more experience. Like they became 3-year LOs instead of 1-year LOs. And so their businesses grew organically and naturally, just as an LO's career should if they're working it as a career. And then we also got the tailwind of rates being low. So we went from 8-10 million a month to 40 million a month in 12 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then we went back to 15 million a month in 12 months after.
Well, that's and that's one of the challenges of that's one of the challenges of effectively like a very regional play, because you get because you're not all that dissimilar to a lot of small companies where when production goes up as a market, then your production goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. That's why being able to have some geographic diversification to kind of expand maybe into get some govy business in Virginia Beach or something, or get some business in Northern Virginia where you have different economic sectors that are coming and going. It's a paper, thin margin, but if you create a custom strategy for that, it can sort of level out your production where you're less susceptible to the local geographic, pitfalls. But yeah, I think that I wouldn't consider you not thoughtful. I would say, my 2 cents of knowing you, whatever, 15 years or whatever, would be to say that I think that you're an intimate guy when it comes to, you take care of your people really well. People really like working for you, and it's hard to extend that intimacy when somebody's 1,000 miles away. Or when you're not seeing them as often as you would like to see them. And it just takes, it's a little bit of a shift because it's one of those things that's a necessary shift when you go into other geographies, because you're not going to see people as much. It's almost like when owners will say, Rick, I used to know everybody in the company and I don't know everybody in the company anymore because we have too many employees. So it's kind of a little bit of a sacrifice of growth. But you find just other ways of extending your leadership to impact and influence behavior at the branch level in markets that could be, and I would say technology is becoming easier to do that. In talking to Shant, and I don't think that you're much different than Shant from Guaranteed Rate, to be honest with you, because he's very similar to you in that he's very likable. He's a really good guy. He takes care of his people. He's a family man. Does a lot of prioritizes his time with his kids and stuff. But he's really leveraging through technology and taking care of realtors in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey and just outside of his core market, even though 60-70% of his volume still is in the Eastern Massachusetts, Boston market. He's really beginning to swell into other markets because technology is bridging that gap that previously wasn't able to bridge.
Comparison to the top loan officer in the country that you want to level out. I'm honored to be in the same sentence with that guy. That guy's a killer.
Yeah. Do you know him? You ever met him? Oh, dude, you should meet him for sure. I mean, he should know who you are. And obviously you should know who he is. Because the reality is you're a very large producer in the state of South Carolina. I mean, you're top 15, right? From an individual producer standpoint.
I guess I focus more on the local MSA, and I'm up there in our local area. You get into Greenville and Charlotte and Charleston, and they've got some bigger deals, and they've got some really good producers down there. So I would guess top 15, but I don't have the answer to that.
And I mean, I could look you up, but I mean, you are, I mean, you're a massive individual producer. And within the MSA, what are the MSA stats that are the most meaningful to you?
I mean, I just look at volume and ranking and stuff like that. Oh, you're talking about which MSA?
No, like your local MSA. Like I'm assuming you look within the Columbia, Lexington MSA. Is that what you're talking about, or within the counties?
I think I was either 1 or number 2 locally, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing is like Daniel Saw is number 1 in Columbus, and all he cares about is being like in the local metropolitan area of Columbus. He does more loans than Rocket or any other top lender in the country. He's number 1, right? And he guards his den. He makes sure that he's going to be a very protected warrior for his realtors and his consumers in that market. And I kind of look at you sort of very similarly in that market. I think strategically it'd be interesting to see you expand. And I know you've had a few attempts at this, but I think that you're young enough and you have the ability, and with technology, I think your ability to expand into the Charlotte Metro, Fort Mill, maybe even northeastern Georgia, even West Virginia. It just takes a different kind of margin strategy a little bit because you're hiring different types of people, but you definitely have the leadership to do it. You've already surpassed what most people ever dreamed to be able to do from a production and just from a growth standpoint. So 3 million, 5 million, 8 million, and then 15. And then of course, COVID was so non-normal to 40, 45. And then you've quote unquote, market corrected down to, your current, 20 million to 25 million a month. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah.
This year, I think industry-wide has started off better. What I'm noticing is I don't feel stressed like I would normally feel in a high unit environment that we're closing a lot of loans, but we doubled January 2025 to January 26. We're going to grow about 50% February over February, and March should be my best month since COVID. So I'm excited about that at this point. It's like there's some things moving in the right direction for us.
Oh, it's incredible. We were at NFM. I think we were maybe, I don't know. There was a short period of time in December where we had a blip in improvement in rates that was a very short lived, and I think or maybe that was in early January, because I want to say our January numbers from December we were up 18 or 20% from December to January, so January was a bit improved from what we were expecting. But it started off with a lot of optimism, kind of very similarly, right? So what are your plans? So what's your staff right now? How many people in your group?
44 or 45. We've got the majority of people here in my office in Lexington. We've got 22 people or 23 people that come in here every day. Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 other branches. And they are spread out a little bit. I mean, out to Texas, and then 3 around, 1 in Florida, 1 in 2, and 2 more in South Carolina. Each of them have an ops person or 2. Travis and Florence's branch is fully built out. He's killing it. They're doing great. They've got 3 or 4. So yeah, 44 if you include ops and LOs. And we'll do, I don't know, we might do 90 loans in February. So plays out like it should.
And how many processors? What's your ops staff look like?
So on my team, I've got 2 LOAs or LP1s and 1 LP2, and then an admin. And then at the branch level, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 processors total. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 processors, and the rest would just be, we call them LP1s, but LOAs. 18 loan officers, about 15 I would call full-time.
Got it. In what you said you have one underwriter? You said, I apologize.
We have no underwriters on staff like that at my branch level. We've got a pool of 3 that we rotate through. They're all corporate employees.
Oh, interesting. Okay. For some reason, I thought you had one underwriter and maybe one closer or something on staff. But is there a real advantage? Would you say or do you think with technology it really just doesn't matter anymore?
I have not noticed any difference because we did hire an underwriter and closer, and then when we transitioned companies, that it just became corporate employees. But it feels like they're employees. They underwrite and close for other locations as well. But I don't feel unloved by our corporate ops team at all. When we get the underwriting manager on the phone immediately if I need anything.
It's interesting on your respective. Let me share this one thing again. This is so much fun. I love this. So when this was the application, your branch binder at RPM, and you had 9 LOs, 3 processors, 3 junior processors, 1 underwriter, and 2 assistants. Pretty fascinating.
Does that show what we did volume-wise? I want to see if I remember right.
What's that?
Does this show what we did volume-wise? I'd love to.
So at least in the application, you had 2 branches. One was 7.5 million a month. Last month, whichever month it was you applied. Last 3 months you did 21 million. Branch number 2 did 2.5 million the previous month. Did about 9 million the previous 3 months. So you're right on the money. You were about 10 million a month when you applied to go to RPM.
Yep.
That's pretty stellar. But it's so crazy to be. And I remember making the pitch, the Palmetto Mortgage Group, because there was a lot of internal politics around this, especially at the time, and there was a lot of pushback on giving you a DBA and you having your own brand. I've always been a big believer in that, especially around good leaders. Not for everybody, but for good leaders, you want to circle the wagons around that individual, and you want to entrust a brand, especially if you're in a brand new market. And to me, the Palmetto Mortgage Group is now a staple in mortgage lending and consumer lending in the state of South Carolina, for sure, right?
At the very least, locally where we are, for sure. Yeah, we've got a pretty good reputation.
No, it's fantastic. But that was another piece. I think having your own local fulfillment, getting your brand. You originally transitioning to non-producing to oversee sort of the growth, and then to continue sort of that growth trajectory. What was the trigger to get you back in the business to start originating? Because you've come out with like.
I know the answer to that question.
Yeah. What's that?
I like getting paid.
Yeah. So you're just like, what's great about you as a leader of your large group, you still think like a loan officer, which I think, and a lot of people lose that. And that's really an incredible, attractive quality for loan officers you're trying to recruit, because you are a loan officer in your DNA. You can help them grow and build and grow their pipeline. And you're not going to fall for the lame ass excuses that loan officers who are lazy issue, because you're doing it every day as it is.
What I noticed is I became a significantly better leader the moment I stepped back into production. So non-producing for me was cool. I viewed it at the time like a promotion, like I've elevated in my career. I don't have to produce anymore, all that stuff. And that was great for the first couple of years, first 3. And then we got lucky with COVID, right? But COVID was actually like a negative for me long-term wise, because it made me lazy. It made me, like, from a non-producing manager during COVID, we made lots and lots of money. Like it was really good, life-changing income for a couple of years. But then I realized that the further I got away from production, the less I knew how to help people, the less I cared to help people. I became lazier. I was bad at my job, essentially, at that point. Getting back into production, I could feel the pain of, if underwriting turn times go from 24 hours to 72 hours, if closings aren't getting, you know what I mean? Like I felt that pain more, and I was in the weeds. I was doing it, like you just said, with them. And so if we feel like our pricing's out of whack for a couple of weeks, I'm feeling the same pain that they're feeling. I'm not just trying to talk them off the ledge. I'm losing a loan or two, or I'm we're having to deal with new construction all the time, like everybody else. It's like I can't compete with $15,000 in closing costs on a $250,000 loan. Like I feel that pain equally because I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. So what I've noticed is my words carry more weight. My activities are more followed. I'm not. The way I manage, I'm not making people do certain things. I probably should do more of that, but you're a commission-only employee. Like you're a grown-up. If you want to grow your business, here's the path. But what I've noticed is people started mimicking my behavior more when I got into production, especially since I ramped production pretty quickly. And I went from 0 loans in 2023 to, I don't know, 45 million in 2020. I'm sorry. Yeah. In 2024. Yeah. Sorry, my years are messed up. 0 loans in 2023 to 45 million in 2024 to 65 last year, right? So like that's pretty decent production in my market. Like I don't compare to the Shants of the world or the West Coast people that have $1 million loans, but like I'm on a $300,000 average loan, doing 65 million is a lot of business. And so from a local perspective, I think they respect what I'm doing more and are more willing to follow and mimic my behavior to grow their own businesses as a result of me getting back into production. I'm better at my job now that I produce. I don't know that I will stop again in the next several years.
Now, how do you resolve the sense of conflict potentially with your other LOs to say, well, shit, I gotta compete with Brian, like my boss, for realtors in my market, or is that a good thing? Or does that put a sense of fire under them to be like, if I don't get at it, Brian will get it? Like, how do you balance that?
Subconsciously, we haven't talked about that. If I'm calling on a realtor that mentions anybody else's name or that somebody has claimed, says they work with, I just don't call them. There's 5,000 agents in Columbia. There's 7,000 agents in Charleston. There's 8,000 agents in Greenville. I can go call anywhere. And so it just doesn't happen very often. We've got 12 loan officers here in this office, and maybe 5 times in the last 12 months that there's been some sort of potential issue that just, to me, it's a non-issue. My sales pitch when I was non-producing was exactly that. Come work here. I'm never going to compete with you, and I'll help you get the business.
Yeah.
And my pitch now is, I did that. It's bullshit. And come here, work me now. Follow my plan. I'll show you how to grow your business because I'm doing it currently.
Well, I think that's way more effective, for sure. As I think you're emphasizing. What would you say to be? What's an area of untapped potential, or an area that you haven't really pursued that you want to pursue to be able to grow your production and your group's influence?
I mean, as an LO or as a leader, manager?
Let's say both.
As an LO, my sole focus is on bigger loans right now.
On bigger loans.
You're aware. Yeah. I mean, the average sales price in my market is a little bit less than 300,000. My average loan last year was a little bit more than 300,000. But there's a lot of $1 million deals around here, and I don't get enough of them. And so I'm focusing on that, because if I can keep my units even, but increase my average loan 100,000, I mean, you know the math on that. As a group, I feel like we've got, the 80-20 kind of Pareto principle applies to our group, where most of the production is in a solid few. I struggle because I want the newer or lower producing loan officers to, I feel like it should be easy to go from 1 to 2 loans a month to 3 to 4 or 5 loans a month. Yeah. But it is. And so I struggle. I go back and forth with, do I want my 8 to 10 loan a month loan officers to go to 12 to 15? Is that going to be an easier lift for me than it is going to get like my 5 underperforming loan officers to double? And so I go back and forth between that. But for us, we've got a lot of markets that are within an hour and a half that we don't even call on. Like I could go to Charleston, which is a great market, in an hour and a half. I could go to Greenville, go to Charlotte. I can go all these places. And then what we're noticing is there's a lot less competition in the smaller towns. And so we've had loan officers go to, there's a town that's pretty close to us called Newberry. It's a very small town, 15, 20,000 people maybe. And there's just no.
That's a decent sized town. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, compared to Columbia, that's got 500,000 people, 15, 20,000, right? So there's everybody seems to focus in the more metro areas. So why not go tap these markets where there's less competition, right? The other thing that we need to do a better job of, that I've started to do a pretty good job with, is in our portfolio or non-QM products. And you would have better insight nationally than I would on that. But to me, it just seems like there's so much untapped business in these programs if
Oh, yeah.
you know. And so what I kind of did a recap of my last year, and all my non-QM was like everything that I did non-QM, my average loan size was 450. Everything I did otherwise was sub 300. So if I have a skill set, we have a good product mix, our pricing's pretty decent. Like, why wouldn't I go after that niche and try to go there where there's less competition, where there's more of a value add to the referral partner?
Yeah. So let's say I'm a loan officer, or rather, let's say I'm a realtor in Newberry, right? Is it Newberry, that suburb?
Yeah.
Newberry. So let's say I'm a reasonably like a top producing, realtor in Newberry. What's your pitch? What's your pitch to me as the realtor? I'm fine, Brian. I'm good. Like I work with my loan officer. Like why should I work with Brian Prahl? Like how do you get your foot in the door?
That realtor would be the same as my pitch to any realtor that I would talk to. It's just that I know there's less loan officers calling on them. And it's pretty simple. Like it's products, it's service, it's all the things that loan officers sell. But if I'm calling you, it's, hey, this is what my realtors, my great good realtor partners are doing to help grow their business, and this is how I can help you. Give me 15 minutes and let me talk to you about it. And it's little things like part of our portfolio programs is buy before you sell. I'm sure most mortgage companies have some version of this now. Nobody sells it like I think they should. And I'm noticing a lot of people that have all of their net worth tied up in equity and have very little cash. They want to move up or they want to do something. So why not pitch a product that there's a market need for that nobody else is talking about? And I've picked up, like we rolled out some equity advance program last April, and I closed 15 of them in 8 months. So the adoption of the program, if pitched appropriately, has really given me a lift. And now I've got 6 or 7 different realtors that are more loyal to me because I solved the problem for them. And so if you're one of my loan officers, that's what I coach on all the time. It's find a market need, find the solution, and go talk about it. And it works really well if you have an example of how you've already solved the problem for somebody else, and it's not some pie in the sky sales pitch like this could be great. It's, hey, these 15 people use this program. I would love to tell you about it, and I think you could pick up 3 or 4 extra closings this year as a result.
Yeah.
Then you go that. I mean, if your average sales price is whatever, 300 grand, and you're making 3% or whatever realtor commissions are now, that's 9,000 a closing times 5 closings. And I just gave you a $50,000 raise. Send me your deals. But my approach in my LO world is pretty direct, and not everybody can get away with it. It's authentically direct. I get coached, and I hear people talk about like getting a deep relationship with referral partners, and I think that's great. I don't have time for it. So my pitch is, we'll be friendly. I have a family. I have friends. I don't want to spend all my time with you outside.
I don't need any more friends. Like, stop.
But I'm busy. I've got teenage kids, and my wife's awesome, and all these things. And so when am I gonna spend time with you? I mean, I've got kids stuff every day. So I'm pretty direct in my approach, and the people that connect with me are similar in that regard, and they're also busy. And so they're not looking for a best friend. They're looking for somebody who's going to get their stuff done.
Somebody who delivers.
Right.
Now, you know what's interesting is we use this solution called Redder. And I wanted to show you something really kind of cool. Now I don't think you guys use Redder at the same time, but you probably have the capacity for this kind of tool. So when if I go to Redder and I go to find opportunities, and I go to Refi Finder, and I don't know why people don't use this feature all that much. So here in Lexington, I can create a list of every address. So there's 33,000 loans that have been done, right? In Lexington, South Carolina, right? And if I collect on 212 Blaine Lane, it gives me who the buyers were. Egley, Licka, and Aurora, Canna. These are consumers. And it tells me that they have $104,000 of equity in that property. Right. And so and it tells me, okay, so the last purchase price was September 2025. So I probably wouldn't follow up with them right away, but maybe in a month or two, I'd follow up with them to kind of say, what are you doing with that 100,000 in equity you have in your house? And when you make a plan for that, so I probably would dedicate one person in any mature sort of operating footprint to just be pounding the phone and all these consumers, right? where I'm just here's Joy, Starkweather Morris, and Jeffrey Brian Morris, right? These consumers, they bought in September 2025. They have, it's not showing up on this one here. Let's see here. And the cool thing about it is I can judge it based on LTV. So let's say I could have a minimum LTV of or a maximum of 60%. That way I can really target when, and I can even target the date range of a range of closings. So I could look at every closing from a certain period of time at a rate of 6.5% and higher. Let's say so there's 6,000 loans that are 6.5% or higher.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So why not click on this and say, this person's got, this person's got negative equity. I haven't seen that one in a while.
Yeah, contact information or just the, so you'd have to build a mailer.
So here's 100,000. Yeah, you build a mailer, or you can get, there's a third party sort of plug-in. We get people's phone numbers and email addresses. It costs about 6 cents a record. So across 6,000 records, it's nothing. It's going to be, $300. You get email, phone numbers and email addresses, but you're able to sort of just pull this. Here's 100,000 equity. They just bought in, August of 2025. So let's say if I separated my date range, let's say the loan type. You can. So this is why there's so much data out there. Oh shit. Let me apply this. So it's 5,000 loans that closed before June of 2025. And I could do it by loan type.
Go do VA.
So if I did VA, FHA too?
Sure. But VA IRRRLs are really easy.
Okay. So there's 2,000 loans that are at 6.8%. Look at all the rates. 6.8, 6.8, 6.8. 6.8, 6.8, 6.8. Let's see how many of those are 7. Look at that, 8%. Who's? Oh, it's funny. John Normett did that loan. That's hilarious. He did this loan in Lexington, South Carolina on November 2023. I don't know who that is. John Normett? Oh, he's a guy that I used to work for me. He's up in Raleigh, North Carolina. But check this out though. Here's a guy. They're at 8.12%. They have $30,000 equity. Emily Tuttle and Tyler Volgeson. I don't know why somebody in your staff isn't calling these people tomorrow.
I don't either.
Look at that. I mean, refinance them. They're on an FHA loan at 8 1/8.
Do me a favor. Kick me that list. I'll give you 10 dips on every deal we close.
Okay, this is being recorded. Okay, so I will hold you accountable to that. But isn't that incredible? The tools, and this is what I'm saying, is that there is a way of moneyballing this process, of digging into these opportunities from a refinance standpoint. But as you know, Brian, it's about building a relationship with the consumer and picking up that phone, because on that list there's buyers agents and sellers agents. So that I'd have that same person call every buyer's agent and say, hey, guess what? We're going to contact your customer. We want to congratulate you for serving them well. We're going to connect with them, refinance them, or call them to see if they're looking to purchase another investment property or an investment property. And if they do, we're going to loop you back in so you can represent them on the sale. We just want to let you know this is what we do at Palmetto Mortgage Group. Thank you very much. Here's my cell phone number. On to the next guy, next agent. That's a powerful, really powerful job that I'd give somebody. I'd pay them, $3,000 a month or $4,000 a month, give them maybe 5 basis points or 10 basis points a deal, and have them just pounding the phones, and they're making 50 to 100 phone calls. Because there's only 2,000 people. But those 2,000 loans represents a lot of production volume. It
does.
I mean, it's tremendous. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we could go for a long time in this, and I'd love to actually, bring you back on and in 6 months to kind of figure out, do kind of a halftime report of the year, and then maybe at the end of the year.
See if anybody watches this before you invite me back on, Rick.
Oh, trust me, I'll get plenty of DMs on this, and I'll get plenty of comments from people for sure. And you'll probably get hit up by every recruiter there is, from this. But No, look, you've always been both a friend and, in fact, there's one other thing I want to highlight before we, let's see here.
Oh God.
No, it's nothing embarrassing at all. So this pumpkin here, this incredibly beautiful, like, I remember her. Now, how old is she now?
She's 13.
Dude, she's 13, dude. I remember literally, like, when did you get married? What
2007.
year? 7? So I've almost known you, not as long as your wife has, of course. But I feel like I've known you almost as long as you've been married. And I remember when this one here, God, she was probably 2 or 3, probably 4.
When I met her, she was 1 or 2, because we met in like 2012 and she was born in 20. So maybe 2013. She might have been 1.
I mean, dude, it's just unbelievable. And I'm,
South Carolina for her age group.
And I love, I know that one extra deal goes to one extra dress that she wears at one extra pageant. But I love what she's doing, and I love how, you and your wife are pouring into your kids. It's just it's such an amazing thing to see. That's one of the things about this business is when you grow up with people in this business, you kind of watch them get older. You watch them go through life stuff, and now we're at a point in our careers where people are passing away, people are retiring, people are, selling their companies, people are, closing their companies, whatever. The industry is really changing, and yet we're kind of old amidst the young guys, and we're young, when compared to the old guys. We're in that sort of, and I'm going to lump you and I together in the same category, jerk. But we're in that fulcrum in the business where we're kind of a connector between the way the old guys did it and the way the new guys are going to do it. And they need leaders like you and I to be able to lead for that. So can we do a toast?
Yeah, I need to get. Yep.
So, I don't. This actually was given to me. This bourbon, this Willet bourbon. This was actually given to me. Huh?
I'm gonna do it for real.
What else were you? Oh, so what is it? You have bourbon, or what kind? Is it Bullet? What is it?
I can't let you drink bourbon and me not drink bourbon.
So, but we should definitely do a toast. We should definitely, do it. Did you already pour it? Oh, I was gonna say that was maybe mine's a little bit too. Maybe there's too much in it. It would look way better if there was at least one cube. See, no, we should definitely do a toast to, certainly, well, number one, our families and our children, because everything. I mean, maybe not all the time, but for the most part, either consciously or unconsciously, we're always doing something for our future foundation for our kids and the legacy we lead them in hard work as they try to carve their own their own path forward, with their own respective careers. So there's that sort of sense of legacy, but I want to cheers to your business and your practice. We've demonstrated you've grown just to just remarkable, levels of achievement that people just simply don't encounter in their own careers. And then to our friendship, we've been through a lot. You've been mad at me. Your wife is still mad at me.
She's probably over it by now.
And so I just want to cheers to the journey we've had together and the journey to come.
Cheers, man. I appreciate you having me on. You'll laugh at this. I asked my daughter, you were talking about kids and careers, and I asked my daughter, I was like, do you want to do what I do? Do you want to be in the mortgage industry? And she goes, oh, heck no. I want to make money.
And you're like, you wait, honey.
What? I feel like I get paid pretty well. Like, what are we talking?
Exactly. Well, and hopefully she does. Hopefully she makes some good money and she's happy doing it.
Good to see you, man. We need to get together.
Cheers to you, my friend. All right.